Okay, what we're going to make today, is make a meatloaf, and I'm going to get right along with this meatloaf here because I did some peanut butter and crackers show. It took me forever to make them peanut butter and crackers, and I'm not going to do that with this right here. This is a meatloaf. I call it the Hawaiian meatloaf. And we're gonna make this meatloaf right here, and I'll show you how it looks when we're finished with some cornbread, mashed potatoes. What? You ought to be in a world where you hooked up with a duct tape girl and a hippie girl. I mean, you never know when they be off and gone. It's always for a good cause. And they left me here in the kitchen. That was a lot of hamburger. I got a full can of pieces and stems, mushrooms. By all means, get the pieces and stems because you don't want to spend too much money. If you following right along and taking notice, you know that I do put minced garlic in everything, and I advise you to do also. And I do like a pretty good lot of pepper, and I'm going to get right in this right here with my hands just in a minute. But now, if you following along, check back on the video. Now, I'm not going to use no basil pesto in this. I like a lot of basil pesto, but I'm not going to put it in here. I'm going to put that whole can yonder. That's not a big can, but it's not that little one neither. Of them crushed tomatoes. I put all that off over in yonder. And some salt. We're going to need some salt in yonder. I'm going to bake this in the oven. Now I'm going to put a little more extra salt than I normally would if you saw that. Anyways, I'm not going to use that. It's all on the side. Okay, now we got to get this mixed. And I did wash my hands. If you have any problems with me mixing up my own meatloaf, well, get over it. If you're going to cook anything, you're going to have to get right in here like I am right now. But I'll tell you what, you need this, just take my word for it. And I am getting a little, well, you know, I'm going to leave that in there because, you know, things like that happens there in your kitchen. And if you think it don't, then you ain't cooked nothing. I'm going to have this on the sideboard over there with them mashed potatoes. Now this right here, I will show you this finish. And this is mixing up really well, more than I thought it would be. I thought this would take longer. It's looking, you know, I'm pretty much good to go with this. Here's what I'm going to do. Yeah, I kind of like this. The texture and everything, I'm going to go with it. It's going to be a little loose. Now, I didn't put no egg in it, and I advise you not to either. It just don't need it. I'm going to put that in the pan. I like that. I do use a white baking dish. I have baked several meals in this dish, and if you are baking in a dish and it's not this color like this right here, you're not doing enough cooking. Use your cookware. It won't stay and sparkly all the time. Use your cookware. Anyways, we're going to put this meatloaf off in here. It does look good, and it's going to be a large one. I normally wouldn't make the one this big, but it's all it is hamburger. Just go home and cook one of them tonight. The secret to this recipe is these pineapple chunks. And what you do, you insert them, you position them in the hamburger. I came up with this recipe 3-4 years ago, best of recollection. It was a craving for pineapple, and I'll eat a meatloaf anytime. So it was a late night creation, and you see that I'm just placing these pineapple chunks, pressing them down into the. I tell you what, Paula Dean, take notice of this recipe right here. I believe I'm in the running. Just go ahead and pencil me in for this new show, cooking, because this recipe right here, it will be the Donald Trump of the show. Just go ahead and make the call, bookmark it, subscribe to it, come back to it, pass it on to a co-worker. Got all of these pineapples. I do have a few left, and I'm gonna keep them aside. I'm gonna have there's 3 or 4 down in there, and I'm gonna reserve them for. I'm gonna put one more right there. I'm gonna reserve them for breakfast, So, anyways, you kind of cover them up. If you're going to a church social, this would be the perfect dish. I'm going to bake this in the oven. Just pull this meatloaf out the oven there about the 20-minute mark. You see that bubbling and sizzling around the side of that meatloaf. Now that's the way it's supposed to look. I'm going to pour off that extra fat around through there. I'm going to put it back in there for probably another 20 minutes. This Hawaiian meatloaf that we made. I hope y'all had a pencil that was taking notes now, or just replay it right there, because it's going to be worth your time. But anyways, we're going to let it sit on the sideboard here and cool just a little bit. I'm going to serve up this meatloaf that we just baked. It just looks delicious. The pineapple smells delicious. We're going to cut a piece. Hawaiian pineapple flavored meatloaf. Now I did bake this I baked that 45 minutes. And I did, while I was baking, I mashed potatoes. And I tell you what now, I went a little extra on the meatloaf. So I did kind of cut the mashed potatoes a little short by using Instant. But what I did was one of those luxuries of life that you should let your person have, is I did opt for the better grade of sour cream. A large dollop of sour cream. That will take the place of the butter, and it'll also add a little acidity to the meatloaf. This is the cornbread we baked the other day, the crackling cornbread. So I'm just going to break a piece. There's no better meal. I present this to anyone. Try it. You'll like it. A Hawaiian meatloaf. It's just a flavor sensation in your mouth. Now I'll tell you what. I did cut the camera off there to move on to something else. And I took a couple of bites of this. And it is unbelievable delicious. It was enough for me to come back. I'm going to call it an encore. Just go out of your way to make one of these Hawaiian meatloafs. Leave a comment. Pass it on to a friend. Unbelievable how good it is.